Welcome to the week 14 overview, the week in which March turns into April. So this week is, on the one hand, about seeing which wintering birds have made it into April, and on the other hand, about which rare migratory birds have visited our country. The Bicol teal is one of those wintering species that made it into April, though I wonder how many birders still care at this point. Previous Bicol teals have been seen well into May, so in that sense, this bird might be around for a while longer. The green-winged teals from Almere and the Lauwersmeer also stuck around into April. The bird at Lauwersmeer cheerfully moved back and forth between the Bochtjesplaat and the Ezelmerkeeg. I've already visited that bird myself for the 250 bird challenge, but more on that later in the vlog. I didn't go for film footage, because the bird was quite a bit further away than the one I filmed earlier near the Zuidlaardermeer. A third bird was found on Vlieland, not a first for the island, as accepted records also exist from 2000 and 2004. A bird that didn't make it into April is the female ringneck duck from Zeelandic Flanders. However, the species still gets a mention here, because the bird in Heerhugowaard is still present. One major absentee this week was a well-known lesser scaup from the Vogelmeer. After faithfully swimming around the same dune lake for months, the bird was not reported this week, and I dare say, if it had been there, it would have been seen. The weather was nice this week too, perfect for early April walks through the dunes, looking for the first nightingales, grasshopper warblers, wheatears, etc. The bird that still had everyone's attention, even months after its discovery, was the male spectacled eider on Texel. Would it make it into April? The answer is yes. But we also have to admit that it's never been harder to see. On some days the bird isn't seen at all. On others, it's so far out that it's very difficult to find. There are still some Infernal month listers who haven't seen the bird by April, and they might be in for a tough challenge. A nice new discovery was a male little crake, found from a birdwatching height by the Veluwe Meer. From the height you overlook two ditches bordered by reed beds. The bird wasn't reported later that day or the next, but on Sunday morning, around the same time, it was seen and photographed again. It seems to be a trend in recent years, little crakes being visually found in the first week of April. The calling males, and occasionally females, are usually discovered from mid-May onwards. Even though the lesser scaup from the Vogelmeer was no longer around, that doesn't mean there was nothing to see this week. On Thursday, a second calendar year glaucous gull appeared once again, likely the same bird that's been cruising up and down the Dutch coast, but it's probably heading north again very soon. Another nice new discovery was that of a long-billed dowitcher near Den Helder. A bird still in winter plumage was found there on March 31st and was still present on April 1st. Could it secretly be the same individual that was seen around Texel last autumn? Who knows? Maybe we'll see the bird again at more high-tide roosts in the coming period. By the way, this wasn't the first long-billed dowitcher of the year. Do you remember the bird in Belgium that occasionally flew into Dutch airspace? On Sunday, the first marsh sandpiper of the year was discovered. Almost 2 weeks later than last year's first, although that one was exceptionally early. This bird was found near Ridderkerk, and when rare birds show up in that region, you can bet a lot of people will turn up. My limited birding experience in that area tells me that alongside large groups of birders, there are often groups of photographers who quickly alert each other and head out to see such a bird. Many of them are more local photographers, not like me or other twitchers who travel all across the country. There was one more waded this week. A fly over Dutherel was reported. Unfortunately, there was no audio recording, but hey, sometimes you hear or see something in daily life that you just can't prove. The observer stated they were confident in their identification, and honestly, it's not that unlikely. Soon we'll hopefully see these beautiful birds foraging in their usual spots again. Off the coast of the Zeeland island Schouwen-Duiveland, a black guillemot was seen this week, still in winter plumage, so more white than black. It remains a very scarce species this winter, lacking any long-staying or easily twitchable individuals. Impressive how this one was found. The observer estimated the distance at around 2 kilometers. Pretty incredible that someone managed to spot and identify this bird from that far away. Another wintering species that's nice to see has made it into April, though not at all that surprising based on past records, is the pygmy cormorant of Lelystad. Migration of black-winged kites is also going well. There were 4 sightings this week. In one case, the observer couldn't completely rule out a hen harrier, but one of the other 3 was photographed. Many more are likely to follow in the coming months. As for pellet harriers, so many were reported this week that it hardly makes sense to keep adding more stars to the map. All sightings were limited to the southern half of the country, naturally including the famous spring migration watchpoint at Breskens and the increasingly popular New Fleet site nearby. The legendary migration watchpoint in the southwest also had a monopoly on red-rumped swallow this week. In early April, the site isn't yet packed with over 100 birders. That usually takes another week or 2. Hopefully we'll get a nice eastern or southeastern wind by then. Just when it seemed like the Hume's leaf warbler wouldn't make it into April, the bird from Culemborg hadn't been reported after March 31st, suddenly on April 6th there was a report of a bird in Limburg, in what the finder describes as a tiny random bush. The bird was even briefly heard singing. The yellow-browed warbler, on the other hand, didn't make it into April. March 31st was the last sighting of the Rijswijk individual, which I mistakenly mentioned in last week's overview. This week also saw the arrival of the first wrynecks in the country, with 3 individuals reported. One was found in Meiendale during a breeding bird survey. Then there was a bird at Lauwersmeer, which, year after year, proves to be a great place to spot migrating wrynecks in spring. Likely birds that don't quite dare to cross the Waddenzee. The last one was seen in the Biesbos. In the coming weeks, many more are bound to follow. Search thoroughly and your chances of finding one are pretty good. We wrap up this week with the stunning Hoopoe. At long last, we got a glimpse of the mega influx that hit the south of Ireland and Great Britain. Many of the reports were flyovers, birds spotted in flight or seen from a moving car. Quite a few disappeared soon after an initial sighting, which is typical during influxes. These birds are still on the move, trying to find the right spot, and they rarely stick around for long. One bird in the Lauwersmeer stayed for 2 days. A bird near Gietjerk was found late in the day and was still around the next morning, but soon vanished as well. The most visited bird was the one in Elst, found around noon and last reported around dinner time. In general, it's usually the hoopoes found in autumn that stay in one spot for longer. That pattern holds true for many vagrant species, except those that temporarily establish territory. I hope you enjoyed this week's overview. For my Dutch followers who tune into the English language channel, I've started a new series of bird sound quizzes on my Dutch channel, Vogels van Nederland. You'll find a link to the Dutch channel in the video description. For now, thanks for watching and see you next time.